Good afternoon, church family. It's good to be with you this Wednesday afternoon. I hope everyone is doing well. As you can probably see, I'm not doing this live. I've heard that some people are preferring to watch these on YouTube where they're all queued up, ready for you to go, instead of trying to find them on Facebook. And for today, it wasn't going to work out for me anyway. So this is not live, but this is a wet Wednesday afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. If you're like me, you're counting the days until we can be back together. It's getting close, but we still have to be patient. This is out of our hands to some degree. And on that note, if you would, open your Bibles to Genesis chapter 32, if you have a Bible there with you. In Genesis 32, we find this incredible scene. This scene with Jacob, just before he's going to come face to face with his brother Esau. No love lost in that relationship. You know the situation there with Jacob deceiving Esau, and just that their relationship has not been good. But just before this, we find Jacob wrestling with this man. And we come to know that this is a theophany, that this is God. Jacob says it himself. Hosea 12 verse 3 confirms this. But what I want to focus on for just a little bit here this afternoon is a few verses right at the end of this section. In Genesis chapter 32, beginning in verse 27. Listen to what it says here. Verse 27. "What is your name?" the man asked. "Jacob," he replied. "Your name will no longer be Jacob," he said. "It will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he answered, "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. Jacob then named the place Peniel, "For I have seen God face to face," he said, "yet my life has been spared." The sun shone on him as he passed by Penuel, limping because of his hip. Jacob was a control freak. He had a history of conniving, manipulating his way to get what he wanted. But the fact is, he comes by it naturally. It was a generational trait passed down to him from Rebecca, his mother. She's the one who set up the trick that they played. Trick's a light way to say it, but the trick that they played on his father Isaac when he pretended to be Esau, which of course led Isaac to give the blessing to Jacob, which meant that Jacob would eventually inherit this land that had been promised to Abraham's descendants. But Jacob also learned this manipulation, deception, control from his uncle Laban. It was Laban who deceived Jacob into working for 14 years in order to have Rachel as his wife. Control, I think, is a problem for a lot of us. Many use anger, money, guilt, maybe even to control their spouses. Some use power, force, again, anger even, to control their families in some ways. Some people use rage or threats to control coworkers or employees. See, control really at its core is the opposite of self-denial, what we're called to. Jesus said, "Deny yourself and follow him." It's that control is the opposite of that. We want what we want, right? And we will use whatever means necessary to attain that. So what delivers us from this selfish, this earthly nature, fleshly nature really, of wanting to have control? Crisis. Crisis is what can help us change. Jacob's crisis came when he was faced with the prospect of meeting his brother who has straight up said that he'll kill him the next time they meet. Esau has built his own clan, and he's about to meet Jacob and his clan out in the middle of the desert. And Jacob is, probably for pretty good reason, Jacob is afraid. He's afraid to have this meeting. He's worried about it. So what does he do? He retreats and he goes off to another place. And it is there where he meets this man. And oddly enough, somehow he ends up wrestling with this man. And this man, what we know, is God. And Jacob, in this wrestling match, clings to God. He refuses to let go. And it is here in this situation where Jacob is given a painful but a necessary spiritual heart transplant. He's changed at this point. From this point on, Jacob will walk with a limp because God dislocates his hip in order to overcome Jacob's strong, stubborn will, his desire to control, his desire for things to be his way. So what's the point? Well, I'm going to be really honest with you here. This whole stay-at-home, quarantine, shelter-in-place thing has been a drag. It's been a real drag for me. The caveat, let me throw this out here. I have very, very much enjoyed the time I've been able to spend with my family. I've really enjoyed that. It's been absolutely the best part of this. But the truth is, ministry, what I do for a living, ministry is about you. It's about connecting with people. It's about ministering to people. It's in the name. It's about teaching classes, about planning events, and that's all been gone through all this. And then as we've lived through this, there have been things that I wish we would do as a congregation. I wish we could do. I wish I could do. And we're just not able to do any of them. It's all been out of my control. I know it's the same for you too. I understand that. And that's what I'm saying. I believe for many Christians, and maybe now more than ever before, but I believe often God has to dislocate our hip through failure, through disappointment, through unwanted and unexpected changes like we're dealing with right now. Sometimes that's the only way he can get our attention. We tend to be so focused on what we want that we forget to look for what he has in mind for us. Our desire, my desire to control is so strong that sometimes it takes a catastrophic type event in order to wake us up, to remind us that God has a plan for our lives. We just have to find it and we have to follow it. But see, you look at Jacob, look at how much he messed up in his life. And God didn't reject him for those personality flaws. God didn't say, no, the guy's a control freak, I don't want him. What God did, in fact, God blessed him because he saw something in Jacob that he knew that he could use. Underneath that, kind of cold, manipulative exterior, God saw a humble, a contrite heart. And it was that trait that God knew that he needed to and could develop. And how did he do it? By bringing about a crisis. Bringing about a crisis in Jacob's life, which led to total and renewed dedication to God. Here it was where Jacob gets a new name. He gets the name Israel. And for the first time, Jacob has a complete nature change. He doesn't just change a little habit. He doesn't just change he's a completely different person. From here on out, we see Jacob no longer as the controller, the manipulator. From here on, after this crisis, God was in control of his life. Now, I'm not saying God has caused this crisis that we're in. That's not what I'm here to discuss. But God will use it. God will use this crisis to our benefit if we let him. It reminds me of what Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. When Paul's talking about his own crisis, the crisis that he's dealt with apparently for years. He's talking about the thorn in his flesh. And in verse 8, he says, concerning this thorn in his flesh, says, I've pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it would leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weaknesses. The sufficiency of God's grace, the completeness of God's strength may be tough for you to grab hold of if you're a person like me, given to self-reliance, given to, I want things this way. God says, I have this. You don't have to have control of the situation. Just trust me through all of this. So here's our question. What will God do in our lives in order to gain our complete devotion, our complete dedication to his will, our complete surrender to his control instead of trying to have our own? Modern day theologian, a guy named Bob Mumford, is quoted with this quote. He says, Beware of the Christian leader who does not walk with a limp. Well, what does he mean by that? When you can take out the word leader, it doesn't have to be a leader, but really any Christian who hasn't experienced, if you will, God's dislocated hip is relying too much on self, too much on our control. So my encouragement to you this middle of the week is, remember, you don't have to control things. In a setting like we're in, you're not going to control things. It's just not going to happen that way. You don't have to be in control, though, because God is. If you're struggling with control, you know that's one of your character traits, and that's something you want. Don't give up on yourself. God will still use you if you let him. Let him dislocate your hip, and let him provide you with that reminder that he's in control, and that you're not, and you don't have to be. Makes life easier to live, realizing I'm not in control, God is. Love you all. I hope things are going well with you. Take care of yourselves. Be patient with this. Reach out to each other as you can. I miss you all so much. My family misses you. We're close. We're closer to being back to where we can assemble together, which is so great. Be patient. Love you all. If you need anything, please reach out. If you have any concerns, questions, whatever, leave a comment here or give us a call, whatever you need. To the Linder Road family and people all in the area, if there's something that we as a church family can do for you, let us know. We love you. Take care. God bless.